Chapter 3. The Lion of the Courtroom. The twin letters lay on their small apartment table, white flags of surrender in a war they hadn't even known how to fight. Foreclosure and a lawsuit. It was a perfectly executed legal garrote designed to choke the life out of them. Despair was a thick, cloying fog in the room, making it hard to breathe. For 3 days, they existed in that fog, barely speaking, the weight of their ruin pressing down on them. It was Sarah who finally broke the silence. "No," she said, her voice raspy but firm. She picked up Liam's meticulously organized folder of evidence. The photos of the crooked door, the damp-spotted drywall, the monstrous wall bisecting their bathroom. "I don't care what it costs. I don't care if we have to sell the car. We are not going down without a fight." Her defiance was a spark in the suffocating darkness. It was enough. Liam spent the next 2 days calling every lawyer who would give him a fivimute consultation. The responses were a soul-crushing chorus of dismissal. "Mr. Miller, you signed the progress forms," one said, his voice dripping with pity. "That's a tough hurdle." "Suing the bank and a major local contractor," another scoffed. "Do you have a spare $100,000 for discovery fees?" Because they do. They were too small, too broke, too thoroughly outmaneuvered. The system Liam had trusted was an impenetrable fortress, and they were peasants with pitchforks at the gate. Their last appointment was with a tired, overworked public interest lawyer in a cramped office that smelled of stale coffee and lost causes. He looked through Liam's folder, his expression growing grimmer with each photograph. "Son, this is a nightmare," the lawyer said, rubbing his eyes. "They have you in a legal vice grip. What you need isn't a lawyer. You need a miracle, or a monster." He leaned back in his squeaking chair. "The only man I know who enjoys taking on bullies just for the sport of it is Marcus Thorne, but he's a ghost now. The Lion of the Courtroom, they called him. Probably wouldn't even answer your call." The name hung in the air. The Lion of the Courtroom. It sounded like something from a legend, a mythical beast you summoned as a last resort. Finding a number for Marcus Thorne was a challenge in itself. He wasn't in the phone book or online. Liam finally got it from a courthouse clerk, an old woman who whispered it to him like she was passing on a state secret. Thorne's office was not in a gleaming downtown skyscraper. It was on the second floor of an old stone building with a handcrafted oak door. Inside, the air smelled of leather, old paper, and something that might have been whiskey. Lord's Ort ceiling bookshelves overflowed with thick, leather-bound legal tomes. There was no flashy modern art, no sleek furniture. It was a den, a lair. Marcus Thorne looked up from a massive desk as they were shown in. He was exactly as the old lawyer had described, a man in his early 60s with a formidable mane of silver hair, wearing a perfectly tailored, if slightly old-fashioned, three-piece suit. His eyes, magnified by wire-rimmed spectacles, were sharp and unnervingly intelligent. He looked utterly, profoundly bored. He gestured for them to sit, not rising himself. "You have 10 minutes," he said, his voice a dry, low rumble. "Begin." Stammering at first, Liam laid out their story. He talked about their dream, the loan from Pendleton, the contractor Sly Vance and his gaudy gold ring. He explained the shoddy work, culminating in the wall built through their bathroom. He pulled out his folder of evidence, the photos and spreadsheets that had become his obsession. He finished by placing the 2 letters, the foreclosure notice and the lawsuit, on the gleaming mahogany desk. Thorne listened without a flicker of emotion. He picked up the folder, flipping through the photos with a detached air, like a connoisseur examining flawed pottery. He scanned the threatening letters from the bank and Sly's lawyer. When he was done, he placed the documents back on the desk with an air of finality. "A classic," he said, his voice devoid of sympathy. "The small-time contractor and the provincial bank branch manager. The symbiotic relationship built on corner cutting and bullying. They target people like you, people with everything to lose, who believe in the innate fairness of a signed contract." He leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Your case is, to be blunt, abysmal. You signed the payment authorizations. Your word against theirs. They will claim every defect is a normal part of the settling process or a minor cosmetic issue. They will bury you in motions. They will bankrupt you with legal fees long before you ever see the inside of a courtroom. You have meticulously documented your own crucifixion. Your best option is to declare bankruptcy and walk away with what little dignity you have left." The words landed like coffin nails. Lem felt the last of Sarah's spark extinguish beside him. This was it, the end. The lion of the courtroom had confirmed their sentence. Liam started to gather their papers, his movements stiff with defeat. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Thorne." "I didn't say I was finished," Thorne said, his voice suddenly sharp. "You brought me a folder of your contractor's mistakes." "That is merely the narrative. I am not interested in the narrative. I am interested in the fine print. Give me everything. The loan application, the construction contract, the land title, the deed, every piece of paper you have ever signed concerning this catastrophe." Confused, Liam dug into his briefcase and produced another, thinner folder containing the driest of their documents. He passed it across the desk. It felt like a pointless, final humiliation. Thorne began to page through the documents with the same bored detachment as before. He skimmed the loan agreement, the contractor's terms, and then he paused on the deed to the land. He stopped. His posture, once relaxed and dismissive, became rigid. He leaned forward, his bored gaze sharpening into a focus so intense it felt like a physical force in the room. He read a paragraph, then flipped back a page, then forward again. He slowly took off his spectacles. With a pristine white handkerchief, he began to polish the lenses, his movements deliberate and slow. It was a quiet, methodical gesture, but the entire atmosphere in the room had shifted, charged with a sudden electric tension. He put his glasses back on and looked up. The boredom was gone. The cynicism was gone. His eyes, no longer merely intelligent, now held the glint of a predator that had just caught the scent of blood on the wind. He looked at the foreclosure notice from the bank. He looked at the lawsuit from Sly Vance. And then he began to laugh. It wasn't a warm laugh, it was a low, dangerous chuckle that seemed to vibrate through the massive desk. "Oh, you magnificent fools," he whispered to the papers in his hand. Then he looked at Liam and Sarah, who were staring at him in stunned silence. "This is not a case of shoddy construction," he said, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. It was the most terrifying, most beautiful thing they had ever seen. "This is a case of spectacular, world-class arrogance, and arrogance," he purred, "is a fatal flaw." He tapped the deed with a single elegant finger. "I'll book your case. As for my fee, let's just say seeing the looks on the faces of Mr. Vance and Mr. Pendleton will be a more than adequate down payment."